yellow dial which goes maximum up to 70. So if you have got both things plugged in, the FiO2 maximum is 70%. If you really need more oxygen, more FiO2, you unplug the air and then you read the white dial which says oxygen only, and the white dial goes up to 100%. So if you are only in oxygen, you will be able to go up to 100%. Okay. So if you are struggling, just unplug the air tubing and you will be in pure oxygen. So look at that. The most important dial in this one is this one. This is a maximum pressure limit. Okay. What would you normally set it at?
24.
Yeah, 30 maximum. Okay, because a PEEP of 30, that's the maximum pressure. After 30 it becomes dangerous and you will give a pneumothorax unless you intentionally do it. So it should always be set at 30. That's the first thing you should check. If it's more than that, come back. If you then decide to go up on the PEEP more than 30, then you should, that's your conscious decision, and then you go up, because otherwise it will start alarming. So that should be at 30. This is the dial that reads the PEEP and the PEEP. We'll look at that when we start ventilating. This dial is called the inspiratory time. The only sort of drawback of this ventilator is you cannot set a respiratory rate on this one directly by dialing something. So you have to work out the rate by setting an inspiratory time, which is this, and an expiratory time, which is this. So normally I would set an inspiratory time of 0.5 seconds, and if I want a rate of 30, what should be my expiratory time be? So it's a quick maths question. I want a rate of 30. The inspiratory time is 0.5 seconds. What should 1.5, correct. So 0.5 inspiratory time, 1.5 expiratory time. It's a cycle, respiratory cycle of 2 seconds, so you'll get 30 cycles in 60 seconds. So that will be a rate of 30 per minute. And usually I just set it at that. But if you are struggling, there is, in 2 o'clock in the morning, you can look at that and set your rate at that. Don't keep the eye time too short, because if you keep the eye time too short, then the baby will struggle to breathe because it will gasp and your eye time will cut off. So I usually prefer longer eye times.
Were you just using 0.5 so we could do the maths?
It's easier to do the maths.
Okay, but 0.5 is quite short for 10 kilo.
Yeah, so you can go up to 0.75 and look at that. So if your eye time is, let's say, 1 and your expiratory time is here, you will be setting a rate of 20. So this is just for ease of calculation. So that's your inspiratory time. Let's set it at 0.5 and expiratory time at 1.5. So between 1 and 2, somewhere between there. We have already talked about the oxygen dial. Then coming on to the PEEP, there is no number there. So because that will be determined by your intrinsic PEEP as well. So when you connect the baby, you should be able to read it. We'll see when we connect the test lung. So there is no number there. There is a number on the PEEP. That's the peak inspiratory pressure. What would you normally set it at? Yeah, 20, 25. So let's set it at 20 to start with. It goes red after 40 because that's very high. And then coming on to the power switch, so that's at O, which is off. Then there are 3-4 settings here. There's one called CMB plus PEEP, and then another one is called CMB plus active PEEP. Which one would you prefer? Active PEEP, because I'll again show you when we connect it what's the difference. In CMB plus PEEP, the PEEP will be only the intrinsic PEEP. Okay, the ventilator will not deliver any gas in between 2 inspiratory cycles. So the lungs may collapse in between that time. So you always keep it on active PEEP, which will deliver constant flow of oxygen and air to keep the lungs inflated in between your inspirations. Okay? Unless you'll only use it if you're running on a cylinder and you do not want to use a lot of gas. Let's say you're in a lift, you may want to use just normal PEEP to save gas, because if you're using active PEEP, it uses a lot of gas to keep the lungs open all the time, because it will be delivering a flow of gas all the time. So we'll switch it on. Before we do that, we'll do the connections. These are called HME filters. They are basically humidifiers. They trap the humidity. Otherwise, the baby's lungs will get very dry, which is not a good idea. The original circuits are kept in here. That's fine. Thank you, Monica. The original, they are all packed. sealed, so you can use them. There are 2 in there. There's also a guide in the bag. If you forget about this session, then you can look at this. And we'll use a test circuit today, which is already attached to a test lung. So this is how the circuit comes. As you can see, there are 2 tubings here. Which one goes in with which? So there are 2 outlets here. Here, sorry. Do you know which one goes in which? Doesn't matter. You can put anyone in any of those. Okay? And before that, you will put an HME circuit. So the filters are basically there to trap the humidity. So that's one less thing to worry about. You can put it in either those. This will go onto the end of your endotracheal tube. That's why I wanted this baby monitor. So this baby has been intubated, and this attaches to your ET tube. Okay. And it's a bit heavy, so fix your ET tube first properly before the tube goes in the baby. Thank you. You can attach it back. So this is, so now you are ready to connect. What will you do first before you connect the baby?
Test the circuit.
So you test the circuit. Never connect it unless you are happy that the ventilator is working. In the meantime, what's going to happen? While the baby should be hung back. By anesthetist or whoever is intubated should be bagging. While you set up the ventilator, you should be very happy with the settings of the ventilator and make sure it's working before you connect to the baby. So we'll connect the test circuit and we will switch it on. So we have settings. We are connected to both oxygen and air. The maximum pressure limit is 30. The I time is 0.5. The expiratory time is around 1.5. The PEEP we don't know. We set the PEEP at 20 and we are in, let's say, 20 in air at the moment, because it goes from 21 to 70% when you are connected to both. So we are in air. So the first one, this is your CMV plus PEEP. Okay, so that PEEP is very high. So what you will notice is that when you are connected to just PEEP, there is, and if you listen to it carefully, there is no flow of gas in between the inspiratory cycles. Okay, while if I move on to, sorry, there is flow, okay, constant flow, and the lungs are not deflating completely. This is active PEEP. If you move on to just PEEP, in between it goes quiet. That means there is no flow of oxygen or air in between the cycles, and that is leading to collapse of the lungs. HIE, or status epilepticus, when you've got good intrinsic PEEP and you haven't paralyzed the baby, so or you are in transfer, so to save gas. But otherwise, by default, use active PEEP.
But when would you not have to paralyze the baby because you don't have any flow sensor or any synchronizing or anything like that? So you can't do CMV on a baby that's awake, right?
You can. So basically, if you are trying to do SIMV and CMV, there is no evidence that there is any increase or decrease in mortality with either mode. We prefer SIMV because it sounds nice, synchronized. Synchronization in this basic ventilator is pretty impossible, okay? Because for that you need a sensor.
Yeah.
You'll have to sense the baby's breath if you want to synchronize. So to avoid confusion, just straight away go on to CMV plus active PEEP. And now you can hear that the constant gas is flowing and the lungs are not collapsing. Once you are happy with this, and now you can see that the dial has started to work. So it's going up to around 20 and the PEEP is falling to around 5. If you're happy with the settings, then you connect it to the baby ventilator. So let's say there's the baby. If this baby is, I don't think it's properly intubated, so we will not be able to see the lungs right. But otherwise, you disconnect it and connect it to the baby. What is the first thing you're going to look at?
Chest rise.
Chest rise. So look at the chest rise. If the chest is not rising, what are you going to do?
Come off and back again.
Come off, put it back on the test circuit, and start bagging the baby. So the baby is taken away for bagging. Then you come back to your ventilator and connect your test lung and make sure that you look at the ventilator properly. Maybe this had come off, that's why it's not working, or your PEEP is not enough. So it will be difficult to determine how much pressure the anesthetist was giving. So you can ask them, was it difficult to bag the baby? If it was difficult, then actually your pressures are probably not correct. So you go up on your PEEP and maybe the PEEP and then try again. Eventually, so as soon as you notice that I've gone up on the PEEP, I'm now around 30 and this has started alarming because my set limit is at 30. If you want higher pressures, you don't want this annoying alarm, you go up on that. But now you have to make sure that you have noticed that you go up on that and you can reset it. Happy? So you have to be sure that you are not too high, because inadvertently you can go up on this PEEP and then you will blow on your muscle. So be careful with that. Any questions? Some people would also like to attach a CO2 monitor to that, and that comes here. Wow, that's stuck. It attaches here.
Does it not alarm for
Leaks.
it
does. If you leave it too long, it will. I'll show you in a minute. This goes in here, so it reads CO2 here, so you drop it down and you connect it. I'm sure the nurses will tell you. And that's your CO2 monitoring. Will it be accurate? It will not be very accurate because the tidal volumes that come out of the lungs in a baby are not enough to be read. So the gas exchange is not great. It will give you a reading. If it's correlating with your gases, fine. You can use it. Otherwise, don't rely too much on that. So once you're connected to the baby to the ventilator, look at your saturations, look at the chest wall rise, and maybe do a gas in how long? 5 minutes. The CO2 exchange will take around 5 minutes to happen. 5 minutes is plenty. You'll be able to see your oxygen saturation on the monitor anyway. So oxygenation, to correct the oxygenation, it may take half an hour to 1 hour. So you can't judge the oxygen saturations quickly on that. But the CO2 exchange is very quick because the CO2 molecules are very small. The diffusion happens very quickly. So 5 minutes is good enough. You do a gas at 5 minutes if you're happy, and if your CO2 is correlating, you're allowed. Okay. But the first thing to look at is the chest wall rise. The chest wall rise should be adequate. It has happened in the past that the baby has been bagged and connected to the ventilator and desaturates in the next 5 minutes because the ventilator was not set correctly. Happy? Thank you, sir.